YN was deep in sleep, snuggled into her blanket, dreaming of a world where work didn't exist. That was until, Meena, YN, your damn phone. Pick it up or I swear I'll throw it out the window. Meena's groggy yet irritated voice rang through YN's subconscious, forcing her eyelids to flutter open. She groaned, rolling over and slapping at her nightstand until she finally grabbed her phone. Squinting at the bright screen, she saw Meena standing at her doorway, hair messy, toothbrush in her mouth, looking like she was ready to commit a crime. Meena, it's 6 in the morning, she grumbled, voice muffled by the toothbrush. Your alarm already robbed me of my sleep, and now this. Unbelievable. YN barely processed her words, still half asleep, as she answered the call. YN, who's this? She mumbled, her voice heavy with sleep. YN, is that you? Her brows furrowed as she glanced at the screen. The number was unknown. Who the hell was calling her at this ungodly hour? Was it an emergency? But the caller sounded too calm for that. YN, yes, speaking. Who? It's me. YN's frown deepened. Me, who? A pause. Jungkook. Her eyes snapped open so fast that she nearly gave herself whiplash. Sleep. Gone. Peace. Non-existent. She jerked upright, staring at the screen in horror. Oh, for the love of, she had forgotten to save his number. Cursing herself, she sat up properly, her heart hammering as she immediately thought of Noah. Is Noah okay? She asked in worry. Last night had been rough with his asthma episode, and she had barely managed to get him stable before going home. Jungkook, however, casually replied, he's completely fine. YN let out a relieved sigh, rubbing her temple. Oh, then why are you calling me at 6 in the freaking morning? Another pause, as if he was hesitating. Jungkook, I'm outside your dorm. YN froze. What? Meena, who was still brushing her teeth, raised an eyebrow at YN's sudden outburst. She gestured in sign language. What happened? YN frantically replied, wait, before pressing the phone harder against her ear. YN, you're where? She whisper-yelled. Outside. In my car. Waiting. Oh, YN flung off her blanket, ran to her window, and peered outside. Sure enough, a sleek black car, the same one that dropped her off last night, was parked by the curb. And in the driver's seat, none other than Jungkook, staring up at her. When he caught her looking, he casually raised his phone and waved, his face completely emotionless. YN's soul left her body. What the? She started but was cut off by Meena, who had now joined her at the window. Isn't that the guy with one kid you told me last night? YN didn't answer, too busy internally screaming. Meena, however, whistled lowly. Damn, he's too hot to be a daddy or really a daddy. YN whipped around glaring Meena. Not now. Meena ignored her. Girl, if I were at your place, I'll win the son's heart and the marry this hot daddy. YN gave her a deadpan stare. You know what? Take it. Take the case. I don't want it. Meena snorted. Wow, dramatic much. Also, you told me to wake you up early. Your alarm already broke my sleep. YN was about to argue when her phone rang again. She groaned, knowing exactly who it was before even looking. Jungkook. Her morning was ruined. Slamming her phone against her forehead, she let out a long sigh before stomping to the bathroom. I'm going to regret this. Saying yes, she muttered, glaring at the ceiling. Meena, still staring out the window at Jungkook, hummed, if you don't want him, I'll take him. YN stuck her head out of the bathroom. YN, go brush your teeth. Meena. YN groggily stepped out of her dorm, rubbing the sleep from her eyes as she spotted Jungkook leaning against his car, arms crossed, looking as infuriatingly composed as ever. The moment she stepped closer, he immediately straightened up and walked over, opening the car door for her as if he were the perfect gentleman. She didn't acknowledge the gesture, still bitter over her disrupted sleep, and slid into the seat with a sigh. As Jungkook got in and started the car, he spoke. Jungkook, last night, you said you wouldn't be late and that you'd be here before Noah woke up. YN bit her lip, nearly cursing herself. She had said that, hadn't she? Trying to save face, she huffed. I know. I was just getting up and getting ready. It's not like Noah wakes up this early, right? Jungkook glanced at her. No, he usually doesn't wake up until 7 since he has to get ready for school, but he won't be attending for a few days, right? YN sighed. Yeah, if he's having frequent episodes, it's better for him to stay at home for now. The conversation ended there as they drove to the Jeon mansion. Later, in Jungkook's study, YN sat across from him as he slid a document toward her. She frowned. What's this? Jungkook leaned back in his chair. You said that during the period you're treating Noah, everything should remain professional. This is the contract to ensure that. I also believe things should stay strictly about Noah. YN scoffed, picking up the papers. Since when did he has time to prepare this? Was this all pre-planned? Jungkook gestured for her to read it. She did, and nearly fell out of her chair. YN, excuse me. She snapped, eyes darting back to him. You expect me to stay at your house? That's completely unnecessary. I can treat Noah without living here. This is pointless. Jungkook, who had been casually shoving his hands in his pockets, stepped forward, placing a firm hand on the contract, pinning it to the table. Jungkook, you're not just treating Noah. You have to act as his mom. If you don't stay here, he'll question it. YN let out a dry laugh. Oh, so should we also act like husband and wife, then? Jungkook hesitated before shaking his head as he replied. Jungkook, no, we don't need to act as husband and wife. You just have to act as a good mother in front of Noah and can continue your job being a doctor. Everyone else knows the truth here. YN crossed her arms. Mr. Jungkook, you've severely misjudged my profession. I'm a doctor, not an actress. How am I supposed to pull this off? This is ridiculous, and staying with you here, no. Jungkook remained calm. You only have to act in front of Noah. Nothing else will change. We won't even be sleeping in the same room if that's what you're worried about. There's a separate room prepared for you. Count yourself as a guest. Jungkook, look. I only did this because your dorm is really far away from my place, even hospital, and staying here will save you so much time than daily traveling, or if there will be emergency you'll be immediately available. Please consider it. YN rubbed her temples, already regretting ever agreeing to this in the first place. Muttering curses under her breath, she picked up the contract again, skimming the other terms to see if he had slipped in anything else insane. Surprisingly, the rest of the contract was straightforward: scope of services, payment terms, medical responsibilities. Then her eyes widened when she saw the offered salary. YN, that's way too high, 6 times what I normally get. I can't accept that. I agreed to this for Noah, not for the money. Jungkook simply nodded, as if he expected this reaction. I know, and it's not about the money for me either, but I'm asking too much from you. Staying here, looking after Noah, everything. It's only fair that you're compensated properly. YN exhaled deeply, scanning the contract once more. No other ridiculous clauses, thank God. Then she paused. YN, there's no time duration mentioned. Jungkook's voice was calm as he replied, the sooner Noah gets better, the sooner you'll be released from this agreement. Now, have you read everything? Or do you have any other issues or problems? In her mind, YN thought, yeah, you're my biggest problem. But instead, she sighed heavily and signed the contract. Jungkook, shall we? He gestured toward the door. Time to wake up Noah. As they both moved toward the door, they ended up colliding into each other. She scowled, rubbing her forehead. Jungkook stepped back immediately, motioning for her to go first. Jungkook, you first. YN faking a smile. No, you first. You have to lead the way. I don't know my way around. Jungkook considered this and nodded before walking ahead, saying that he'll hand her Noah's timetable and all, but the moment his back was turned, YN glared at him and mouthed few profanities. Jungkook suddenly stopped talking and turned around, raising an eyebrow. Did you say something? YN instantly switched to a bright smile. YN, nope. She waved him off. Please lead the way. He gave her a suspicious glance before continuing ahead. YN let out a silent scream before following him toward Noah's room. Jungkook entered Noah's room. The little boy was still curled up under the blankets. Normally, Noah would be up around 7, but given last night's asthma episode and the injection YN had given him, Jungkook figured a little extra sleep wouldn't hurt. Still, it was time for him to wake up. He sat on the edge of the bed and reached out, gently rubbing Noah's back. Jungkook, morning, buddy. Time to wake up. Noah stirred slightly but didn't open his eyes, instead mumbling something incoherent. Jungkook softly picked him up in his arms and Noah clinged to Jungkook like a koala. His little head drooped to the side, showing just how sleepy he still was. Jungkook smiled softly, nudging him again. Jungkook, come on, baby, wake up and see who's here to meet you at that. Noah's tiny eyes fluttered open, still hazy with sleep. He blinked a few times before noticing YN standing by the side of the bed, smiling warmly at him. Instantly, his sleepy face lit up. Noah, Mima, he called out, stretching his little arms toward her. YN's heart skipped a beat as she still isn't used to Noah calling her mom, but without hesitation, she sat down beside Jungkook, and Noah wasted no time shifting from his father's lap to hers, wrapping his small arms around her. Even though he was still half asleep, he murmured in his soft, jumbled speech. Something inside YN melted at the sight of the sleepy, marshmallow-like child in her arms. She tapped his tiny nose playfully. Wake up, Bun. Noah pouted, scrunching his nose. Noah, hurt? He mumbled. Immediately, YN's brows furrowed in concern. Hurt where? She asked, scanning him for any signs of discomfort. Jungkook watched the interaction silently, a small smile playing on his lips as he observed how naturally Noah clung to YN and how she responded to him with such ease that means there wouldn't be much problem if YN treated Noah. Noah sleepily pointed to his leg, right where she had given him the injection last night. YN let out a soft chuckle before rubbing the spot gently. YN, oh, my poor baby. The pain will go away soon, but you have to wake up and eat lots of healthy food, okay? Noah blinked up at her, considering it for a moment, then gave a slow, dramatic nod. Okay. By now, he was more awake, though he was still snuggled in YN's arms. That's when Jungkook finally spoke, his voice laced with mock offense. So the good morning was only for Mama. What about Appa? Noah blinked at his father, looking momentarily confused before his little lips formed a shy grin. Jungkook chuckled, ruffling Noah's already messy hair. That's better. Noah then turned to YN again, grinning sleepily. Both Jungkook and YN looked at each other awkwardly but still smiled because Noah was watching them. Jungkook placed a gentle hand on Noah's back, stroking as he affectionately stared at his son. YN, on the other hand, found herself watching Jungkook more than she intended to. The way his expressions softened around Noah was so different from his usual cold and stoic demeanor. A few minutes ago, he was the arrogant businessman who made her sign a ridiculous contract. Now, he was a loving father, patient and tender with his son. She couldn't understand Jungkook, and she told herself she didn't want to. She was here for one reason, to treat Noah. That was it. Nothing more, nothing less. But as Noah hugged her again, giggling in her arms, she knew one thing for certain: sticking to that mindset was going to be a lot harder than she thought. Jungkook knelt beside Noah, adjusting the loose sleeves of the hospital gown. Jungkook, all right, buddy, listen to the doctor, okay? Don't make trouble for them, he said, smoothing down Noah's hair. Noah grinned, wiggling in place. I won't. Appa. Just then, YN walked in, clipboard in hand. Noah, ready? We need to run some tests, she asked, her tone professional but gentle. Jungkook looked at his son, voice low but firm. Behave, okay? YN Sai is with you, so there's nothing to be scared of. Noah gave a small thumbs up, his excitement dimming slightly at the mention of tests. YN noticed the shift in his expression but didn't comment. Instead, she offered her hand. Let's go, she said softly. Noah took it without hesitation, and together, they walked toward the examination room while Jungkook stayed behind, watching them disappear down the hall. Inside, YN guided Noah to the examination bed. All right, lie down, she instructed softly. Noah obeyed but hesitated, his small fingers curling against the paper-covered surface. His wide eyes darted toward the unfamiliar medical equipment. He wasn't throwing a fit, but YN could sense his unease. She crouched beside him, her voice lowering to a soothing tone. It's okay, Noah, don't be scared. I'll be right here the whole time. The nurse, standing nearby, prepared the necessary equipment. Noah glanced at YN, his tiny fingers instinctively reaching for hers. Without hesitation, she took his hand, offering a reassuring squeeze. YN, I'm here, she reminded him. Noah's lips curled into a small smile. The tests began. Jungkook was standing outside when YN finally approached him. She held the clipboard close, her expression unreadable. He straightened at her presence, his arms folding instinctively. YN, the preliminary test results are in, she started. But I can't make any final decisions yet. I need to go through Noah's past medical history, his previous treatment plan, prescriptions, everything. Jungkook gave a short nod. I'll provide whatever you need. There was a pause. YN's eyes flickered with something unreadable before she asked, was there any complication at his birth? Jungkook's jaw tightened slightly. He was born prematurely, YN inhaled, understanding dawning in her gaze. That explains it, she murmured. His respiratory system and lung strength are weaker than average. That might be the underlying cause of his frequent episodes. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair. So, what now? YN, we need to prepare a new diet chart for Noah, she stated. His current nutrition might not be supporting his condition well enough. Jungkook nodded, absorbing the information. And the remaining tests? YN, they're necessary, she confirmed. You mentioned his asthma attacks are frequent. That concerns me. It means his body isn't adapting to his previous treatment. That's why I need his old medical records. I need to understand what's failing. Jungkook exhaled, tension rolling off his shoulders. I'll get you everything. YN gave a curt nod, her professional demeanor intact. Yet, beneath it, something unspoken lingered in the air between them. A past unresolved, a present entangled in circumstances where both just trying to stay civil around each other. Because after all it was for Noah only. Meena stared at YN with wide eyes, setting her coffee cup down with a dramatic thud when YN told her everything. Meena, what do you mean you're leaving me? She asked, crossing her arms. YN sighed, leaning back in her chair. I'm not leaving you, Meena. I'll be back soon. It's just until Noah's condition gets better. I have to stay at their house for any emergencies. Meena's lips parted in disbelief. And you actually agreed to this? YN scoffed, like I had a choice. The senior already told me I have to deal with this case. It's not like I could pull some stunt and go against it. I studied hard to be in the position I'm in now. I can't afford to mess this up. Meena sighed, finally nodding in understanding. Okay, I get that. But, why does the kid keep calling you mom? Did you look like his mother by any chance? YN stiffened slightly before shaking her head as she herself doesn't know the reason yet. Hell, she doesn't even know the face or name of Noah's mother, but it's not like she wanted to either. She gave Meena a look, as if to say she didn't mind Noah calling her that, just not in front of others. YN, it gets awkward, she muttered, but when he calls me mom, I don't have the heart to stop him. Meena raised a brow. Why? YN swallowed, her fingers tightening around her cup. Noah had lost his mother at birth. He didn't even know the truth about her. It was painful, really. And maybe, just maybe, that was why she let him call her that. Was it pity? No, it wasn't pity, because every time his honey-dripping eyes looked up at her, searching for safety, for comfort, she felt something else entirely. A pull, a warmth, a responsibility she wasn't ready to name. She shook her head, forcing herself out of her thoughts. Forget it. Meena frowned at the sudden change of topic. Why are you asking about him? YN, I need his help to prepare Noah's diet chart, she said, finishing her drink in one go. Meena studied her for a moment but didn't push. As the conversation shifted, YN didn't realize how deeply Noah was carving a place in her heart, how her motherly instincts were surfacing despite her resistance. Yet, her grudge against Jungkook still remained. YN yawned as she descended the grand staircase, rubbing the sleep from her eyes only to pause mid-step. Her brows furrowed as she watched the bodyguards hauling something into the living room. Her suitcase. She blinked, realization hitting her. Meena actually packed my clothes. Before she could react, Jungkook strode in behind them, fresh from a jog. His forehead glistened with sweat, dark strands of hair sticking to his skin. He wasn't in his usual stiff, tailored suits but in casual joggers and a loose muscle tee, his toned arms flexing slightly as he ran a hand through his hair. Heat crept up YN's face, fingers twitched at her sides, forcing herself to look anywhere but at him. Jungkook, oh, "You're awake early today," he remarked, his deep voice breaking the silence. YN shot him an oh-so not interested smile. "That's my luggage, isn't it?" Jungkook nodded. Before she could grab it, he was already instructing the bodyguards. "Jungkook, take it to upstairs to her room." YN, "Wait," she started, but it was useless. The bodyguards were already walking upstairs, suitcase in tow, and just like that, she was left alone with him. She swallowed, suddenly hyper-aware of how close he was. The scent of his cologne mixed with sweat, annoyingly fresh, not unpleasant. Her gaze flickered over his frame for half a second before she scolded herself. She's still not ready to be left alone with him like this, as she herself doesn't know how to act around then. "YN, I should check on Noah," she blurted, turning on her heel before he could say anything. She didn't look back, not even when she felt his gaze burning into her retreating figure. Hana stood with her arms crossed, leaning against the doorway of the kitchen, her gaze locked onto YN. The doctor stood by the counter, meticulously instructing the cook on what to prepare for Noah's breakfast. Her tone was calm but firm, ensuring every ingredient aligned with the strict dietary restrictions she had placed on the child. Hana scoffed under her breath, muttering to herself, acting like she owns the place. Just then, Jungkook descended the stairs, dressed sharply in a fitted black shirt and trousers, carrying Noah in his arms. The little boy, still in his pajamas, clung to his father with his small arms wrapped tightly around Jungkook's neck. As soon as Noah's eyes landed on YN, his legs swung back and forth in excitement. "Noah, Appa, put down." "Down," he wiggled eagerly. Jungkook chuckled softly, adjusting his grip before gently setting Noah on the floor. As soon as his feet touched the ground, the boy bolted toward YN, his tiny arms wrapping around her legs in an eager hug. YN's face softened as she placed a gentle hand on his head, smiling as she ruffled his hair. From the corner, Hana watched the interaction, her lips curling into a bitter smile. "Hana, he's getting too attached to her. Always clings to her whenever she is around," she murmured, just loud enough for Jungkook to hear. Then, turning to him, she added, "Do you still think what you're doing is right?" Jungkook didn't immediately respond. His eyes lingered on YN and Noah, a fondness in his gaze that didn't go unnoticed by Hana. The way he looked at them, more precisely to YN, made jealousy churn inside her. "Jungkook, yes, I know what I'm doing," he finally replied, his voice steady. "And I've seen improvement in Noah as well." Hana let out an exasperated breath. "She doesn't even let Noah eat what I make for him. Who is she to stop me from feeding my own nephew? I was here before she came, and no other doctor had an issue with it." Jungkook's expression darkened as he finally turned to face her. His gaze hardened, his patience thinning. "Noah is on a strict diet. He can't eat just anything." Hana crossed her arms tighter. "Do you really think I'd make something that could harm him?" Jungkook sighed, rubbing his temple. "Jungkook, no. But you might have added something that wasn't in his diet plan. Maybe that's why she refused. She doesn't have a personal grudge against you, Hana. She's here to treat Noah." Hana let out a short laugh of disbelief. "Hana, it's only been a few days, and you're already taking her side." Jungkook shook his head, his jaw clenching as he moved to sit at the dining table. "I'm not taking sides. I'm just worried about Noah. If YN is making sure he eats only what's safe for him, then there shouldn't be a problem." Hana was about to argue again when she noticed YN and Noah walking toward them. Jungkook subtly raised a hand, signaling Hana to drop the conversation. "Jungkook, let her do her job," he murmured. "Do not interfere." Their tense exchange was interrupted when Jimin strolled into the dining area, stretching his arms. "Jimin, something smells good in here. I'm starving." Hana rolled her eyes at his entrance. "Hana, did you crash here last night?" Jimin raised a brow, smirking. "Why do you have a problem with my existence?" "Hana, boy, do whatever you want. I don't care," she muttered, turning her attention to her phone, clearly uninterested in continuing the conversation. Jimin shrugged and turned to Jungkook. "Jimin, why is her mood always so sour?" Jungkook exhaled sharply, giving him a knowing look. "Don't ask me." Before Jimin could press further, his eyes scanned the room. "Where's the champ?" As if on cue, Noah appeared, clinging onto YN as they walked in from the kitchen. Jimin's brows lifted in surprise at the unfamiliar face before him, but he quickly pieced together who she was. "Jimin, YN right?" he said, his voice light with curiosity. YN, noticing the unfamiliar but warm presence, simply nodded. With a grin, Jimin extended a hand. "I'm Jimin. Nice to finally meet you." YN hesitated only for a moment before shaking his hand. His cheerful demeanor was a stark contrast to the stone-cold expressions she had grown used to from Jungkook and Hana. "YN, nice to meet you," she said politely. "You know me?" For YN, Jimin was a complete stranger, but for Jimin, YN wasn't. Jimin chuckled, a sense of familiarity in his tone. "Jungkook talks about you a lot." Jungkook cleared his throat, a silent warning in his expression. Jimin, of all people, knew about his past with YN. He also knew exactly how Jungkook felt about her, and that was something Jungkook wasn't ready to discuss, not yet. The moment lingered, heavy with unspoken words, before Jimin's grin awkwardly, breaking the tension. "Well, let's eat. I'm starving." At first, it wasn't easy for YN. Every little change she had to implement felt like a crucial piece in a puzzle, one that would help Noah get better. His asthma episodes were frequent, almost unpredictable, and she had to research tirelessly to pinpoint the triggers. Adjusting his environment, altering his room, and restructuring his diet from scratch, each step demanded precision and care. Thankfully, with the help of a nutritionist from her team, she was able to formulate a meal plan that would ensure his safety. But what truly made things difficult was Hana's constant interference. Hana always had something to say: what Noah liked, what he didn't, what he should and shouldn't eat. That in itself wasn't the issue. The real problem was that Noah's diet had to be meticulously monitored to determine what was worsening his condition. He was fragile, his body too susceptible to external influences, and any misstep could lead to another episode. YN had to be careful, yet Hana took her involvement as a personal attack, as if YN was trying to replace her in Noah's life. But YN didn't care for these misunderstandings. She wasn't here to take anyone's place, she was here to do her job, to help a child who desperately needed it. And despite Jungkook had told Hana to stop interfering, noticing her growing hostility, but instead of fixing things, it only made them worse. YN saw it clearly, the resentment in Hana's eyes, the silent accusation that eventually turned into spoken words. "Hana, I know what you're trying to do," she spat one day, her tone sharp with unspoken anger. "First you take my sister's position, now trying to take mine, huh? Don't you think you can change my place here?" YN exhaled quietly, her patience worn but intact. She had never intended to replace anyone, nor would she even be here if Jungkook hadn't pushed her into this situation. "YN, I'd rather not be," she replied evenly, her gaze unwavering. "And I'm not interested either." Her response caught Hana off guard, leaving her momentarily speechless. But YN meant it. This wasn't about anyone else's insecurities. It was about Noah, and only Noah. One unexpected source of comfort in this house was Jimin, Park Jimin. His upbeat nature was refreshing, a stark contrast to the tension that often clouded the house. It was easy to warm up to him. He was understanding, considerate, and, in a way, the only person who truly made things easier for her or she can trust. It had been a long, exhausting evening. As Noah was with Hana and YN giving her time to rest, she sat on the couch, arms crossed, her thoughts a tangled mess. Jimin, who had just finished a call, turned to find her staring at him with a determined yet frustrated expression. "YN, Jimin-si, can I ask you something?" She finally spoke, voice quieter than she intended but carrying the weight of her exhaustion, and Jimin nodded, keeping his phone aside. "Why does Hana hate me so much?" "It's not like I've done anything to her." Jimin sighed, running a hand through his hair as if he is used to of Hana's this behavior. "She's actually jealous of you." YN frowned. "Yeah, I can see jealousy, but it's only because Noah calls me mom. It's not like I can take Noah's mom position." Jimin, "No, it's deeper than that. What you think. She sees you as a threat. She thinks." He hesitated, meeting YN's gaze before dropping the truth. "She thinks you'll take Jungkook away from her." YN froze. Her fingers gripped the fabric of her sweater as her mind reeled. Did he know about her and Jungkook? Jimin's eyes softened as he could read her, so he added, "Wine sigh. I know about you and Jungkook if that's what you are curious. And for Hana, she might have her suspicions, but she doesn't know about you guys." YN swallowed hard before asking the question that gnawed at her because she didn't knew that Jimin knew a lot about her. "Did Jungkook tell you about us?" Jimin shook his head. "I've known long before you even realized it. Have you forgotten?" He paused, watching her expression. "Bangtan Agency?" YN's breath hitched, her eyes widening as if the name alone had brought back a flood of memories. Her fingers curled into fists. How did he? Jimin watched her reaction carefully before reassuring her. Jimin, you don't have to worry. No one else knows about it. Just me and Jungkook, he said, seeing her panic expression that sight. It was actually an experiment. You know how dating and matrimonial sites exist these days? We tried something similar, a service where people could hire a temporary boyfriend and girlfriend who face issues in real life to be in relationship, but it didn't work out as it has many flaws, so we have to shut it down. But Jungkook has tried it, and you were our last client before we closed it. Actually, it was Jungkook's decision to close it. YN felt heat creep up her neck. She had hidden this from everyone, and yet Jimin knew. No wonder she could never find that site again. It had disappeared along with that chapter of her life. Taking a deep breath, she tried to steady herself. But what does this have to do with Hana's jealousy? If you know all of this, then you should also know there's nothing between me and Jungkook anymore. We signed the contract. Until Noah gets better. That's it. Jimin nodded because he remembers when Jungkook confessed that even though he had developed feelings for YN, but YN doesn't feel the same way. Jimin, I understand that. But Hana doesn't. And here's the thing. Hana and Jungkook were supposed to get married. YN stiffened. What? Jimin nodded. After Noah became Jungkook's full responsibility, their families pushed for it. The idea was that Noah would have a mother figure, but Jungkook refused. And that broke Hana's heart. YN's mind raced as she tried to make sense of it all. But wait. Jungkook was going to marry Hana right after his wife died. Wouldn't that be cruel? Even if it was for Noah? Jimin's head snapped up, his brows furrowing. Wife? Whose? YN swallowed. Jungkook's. Her voice trailed off as Jimin's confusion deepened. Jimin whined sigh. Jungkook never married anyone. In fact, I'm the one forcing him to get married. Her heart stopped. Jimin studied her, realization dawning on his face. Whined sigh. Did you think Noah was Jungkook's son? She blinked at him, stunned. He calls him Appa. Jimin let out a soft chuckle, though it was filled with disbelief. YN, Noah also calls you mom. That doesn't make you his mother. At least, not biologically. YN's world tilted on its axis. Then whose son is he? Jimin sighed, voice turning gentle. Noah is Jungkook's elder brother's son. Jihoon Hyung. YN felt her breath hitch, her entire body going cold. Jihoon? Jimin, Jihoon Hyung and Yunya Nuna died in a car accident. Hyung tried to protect, taking most of the impact. She survived but was rushed to the hospital. She was pregnant 8 months along with Noah, but she didn't make it through childbirth. She could see the sadness in Jimin's eyes as he grimly explained her. YN's hands trembled. So Jungkook. Jimin, he was left to raise their baby. Silence settled between them as YN processed the weight of the revelation. Her entire perception of Jungkook shattered and reformed within seconds. All this time, she thought he had moved on, built a life, had a family. But the truth was far different. Jimin watched as emotions flickered across her face. Shock, realization, regret. While YN exhaled shakily, her heart pounding. Everything had changed.